your point. I guess we let you know when we're ready to go. Then you tell them. Okay, got it. And where am I? I guess I'm over there. Okay, got it. Yeah, because I'm slow. So yeah. Or throw something at me. Or, yeah, it'll work out. Hey, Ruben, good luck. Grab myself a water too. Woo. We're no longer at the end of the road. Congratulations. Okay. Hi, Chang. Yep. Sure you shame me into carrying 2 chairs. Okay. Excuse me. It's hard to talk with a tie on. Yes. Well, yes, that's a burden, you know. Yo-yo?
I'm Yo-Yo.
How do you do?
Very
Rod
nice to meet
Passion.
you.
Likewise.
Very nice to meet you. Very nice to meet you. And I'm so glad you're monitoring this. I think,
Oh, thank you.
you're a veteran.
They tricked me into it.
They tricked you into it?
No. I did. So,
Anyways, I'm going to take
have,
a seat.
have a good time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah. Oh. I got it. It was Tom. Everybody's quiet. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the 2018 Millbrae City Council's Candidates Forum. The candidates have previously been informed of the format and the rules, but for the benefit of the audience here and those watching at home, I'll restate them now. Each will have an opening statement, 3 minutes per candidate. There'll be a question answer, 90 seconds per candidate for each question. Each candidate will get to answer each question. There'll be closing statements, 2 minutes per candidate. I'd like to introduce Tom Dowdy, who's our official timekeeper. He has his magic iPad. It'll be green. When you have 30 seconds, it turns yellow, and red indicates the time to stop. Do not get Tom angry. Questions can come in from the studio audience, can be put on note cards, and will be brought up here. And I'd like to say that we're broadcasting live on MCTV Comcast Channel 27, AT&T 99, and we also stream live on the internet at mctv.tv. And you can find, same station, our replay schedule. We'll be replaying this on a regular basis. Now I'd like to introduce the candidates. Starting on stage right, we have John Chang. Next, Yo-Yo Shu, Ruben Holliver, and Annie Oliva. And by the draw, we start tonight with the opening statements with John Chang. John?
Thank you. Dear friends and neighbors, my name is John Chang. I would like to thank Millbrae.
Is the mic for someone? Yeah, can't hear it.
Dear friends and Dear friends and neighbors, my name is John Chang. I would like to thank Millbrae Election, MCTV, for this opportunity to introduce myself and my statement. A bit of my background. I am a Chinese from Taiwan. I got my Chemical Engineering Master of Science from University of Rhode Island in 1986, and Computer Science Master of Science from New Jersey Institute of Technology in 1989. I came to California, South San Francisco, married and worked at United Airlines in 1990. I started as Senior Programmer Analyst at the Department of Public Health, City County of San Francisco from 1994. On 1999 Christmas, we moved from South San Francisco to Millbrae. And at that time, we think this is just that the Lord prepared for us, just like Psalm 23, by green pasture and still waters. So we have 3 young adults live with us, 2 work in San Francisco, 1 still in Berkeley. They all went through Spring Valley, Taylor, and Mills High schools. I love to excavate, to dig out people's potential and strength. As a coach and mentor, I study math, art of problem solving with the middle school and high school kids to prepare them for AMC American Math Contest, 8th grade, 10th grade, and 12th grade, and Amy and Math Olympia. I'm also an ordained Assemblies of God minister. This year, we serve Full Life Church for 8 years. Full Life Church loves to serve our community for disadvantaged, weak, and needy, such as in Millbrae Skill Care and the Burlingame Sunshine Assisted Living Bible Study. Also, on October 19th, 2018, Friday night, at this place, 7:30 to 9 p.m., we will have a Chinese divine healing preacher here to serve those sick. Every time we recite Psalm 23, green pastures, still waters, make me think about Revelation chapter 22, verse 2, a holy city coming down from heaven, prepare as a bride. So I would like to be in it. I think Millbrae will be part of it. We think God is speaking to us, so this is why even I'm working in San Francisco for the past 28 years, living in Millbrae for 18 years. I still would like to come out as the only independent candidate to run for the city council to serve Millbrae. Thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Yes, go ahead, Jay.
Okay, great. Well, good evening. Before I start, on behalf of all of us, Rod, I'd like to thank you, Dana, and the rest of the dedicated staff at MCTV for putting on this great event and for making tonight possible. My name is Yo-Yo. I'm 21 years old, and I'm a first-time candidate running for one of 2 seats on the Millbrae City Council. I was born and raised in the Bay Area, attended Mills High School, and now run Millbrae's top-rated restaurant. Wonderful. My family and I have lived in Millbrae on Hemlock Avenue for almost 10 years now, and like everyone here, we care deeply about this city. I'm running for City Council to make a positive difference in my community. I believe change starts small, and it starts at home. I will bring new energy, a fresh drive for progress, and great new ideas to City Hall. If elected, my priority will be to listen to residents and always put their interests first. For many in Millbrae, this election is a referendum. In other words, a performance review of our City Council. So many residents have been disappointed time and time again by the lack of common sense from our elected leaders. On my street today, residents have to pay $70 per car per year to park in front of their own house after the City Council approved a 3-story restaurant with just 10 on-site parking spaces called Tai Wu. Last winter, Annie Oliva was a vocal supporter of bringing a temporary holiday ice rink to Millbrae, a proposal that wasted loads of valuable staff time and would have cost taxpayers $346,000. The City Council has been repeatedly disrespectful with public funds, choosing just recently to spend tens of thousands of dollars painting the intersection in front of Pete's Coffee red and yellow, an intersection that was destroyed this week by sewer workers. Soon after all this waste, the same City Council voted to increase your water bills by 60%, causing extreme hardship for many of our elderly and fixed-income residents. We also have more than a $20 million deficit for our community center rebuild. Throughout my campaign, I have laid out my proposals and priorities clearly and concisely, including plans to revitalize our downtown district, take down our red light cameras, enhance public safety and reduce crime, and most importantly, plans to bring a renewed sense of urgency when it comes to solving the challenges that face our community. I appreciate this opportunity to go more in depth about my vision for Millbrae, and in the next hour, I hope to have a fruitful and constructive discussion with everybody here. Thank you.
And Ruben Holliver.
Thank you, Rod, and thank you, MCTV, for hosting this forum tonight. My name is Ruben Holliver, and I'm running for re-election to the City Council. I was elected to the council in 2013 and served as mayor last year. I grew up here in Millbrae, and I ran for City Council because I care deeply about this community. Millbrae is a wonderful place, and I would like it to be that way for many generations to come, as my wife Amy and I raise a family here. I'm honored to have served as your council member and would be honored to have the opportunity to serve for another 4 years. My vision has been to position Millbrae as a competitive economic center while maintaining our small-town feel and quality of life. Millbrae has many strong attributes: excellent public schools, walkable neighborhoods, and a network of scenic parks. We also have many opportunities. We're located in a thriving economic region with convenient access to transit and the airport. Redevelopment near the transit center is key to attracting businesses, but it must be done responsibly. 2 projects approved earlier this year will provide over $1.6 million annually in surplus revenue to the city. The developments will create quality jobs and provide over 160 units of much-needed affordable housing. As the projects enter the design review phase, I will keep working to make sure that they will benefit Millbrae with minimal impacts. I will also apply my knowledge and experience to help foster future economic development along the El Camino corridor, while being a tough negotiator for the city. Revenues from these projects are necessary to maintain strong public safety and to modernize our infrastructure. Tragically, our recreation center was destroyed by fire. The suggestions provided by residents through a robust public outreach process set the vision for a modern center that will be a vibrant hub for our community. The city is assembling the funding package needed to build a modern center, meeting safety needs and restoring youth and senior programs. My goal is to break ground by next year. Millbrae has substantial infrastructure needs. While we have completed several road paving projects, there's much work to be done. I will continue to prioritize street resurfacing and repairs to make sure that we're making the necessary investments each year. Millbrae is facing a unique set of challenges ahead. Experienced leadership is necessary to guide the city through these challenges. In addition to serving as your council member, I earned a master's degree in public policy from UC Berkeley, and I work as a budget analyst for the City and County of San Francisco. I provide an analytical lens to Millbrae's finances, ensuring an efficient use of resources and preventing wasteful spending. I feel that I have the needed experience, pragmatism, and vision to guide Millbrae forward through the next 4 years. Over the next month, I hope to earn your confidence and your support. Thank you.
And Annie Oliva.
So whenever I make an important decision to take on a project or a job, I ask 3 questions: what, how, and why. I'm Annie Oliva. I was elected to Millbrae City Council in 2013, and I served as your mayor in 2016. I was born and raised on the peninsula, and I've lived in Millbrae for over 25 years. I'm a lifelong realtor and an owner of a family business. I have years of leadership experience, including serving as president of SAMCAR for a few years ago, and on boards including the Sheriff's Activity League and HART, the Housing Endowment. I've represented Millbrae on several committees, including the Airport Land Use, Senior Advisory, Technology, and Grand Boulevard. I've been involved in the community as a volunteer in formal and informal roles, including stints with the PTA, Mills High School Athletic Booster Club, and the Italian American Women's Club. I'm a coordinator for the Coats for Kids program as well. My husband, Jose, of 37 years, and I have 3 grown children. I'm a graduate of Notre Dame University in Belmont. And I'd like to explain my decision to run for City Council by sharing the answers to those questions. What is the job? The role of the City Council members to serve as the residents as a leader, understand their ideas, serves, and needs. It's also to enhance the quality of life in our shared community by making sure the city is providing great services. The job as a council member is to encourage community engagement, foster economic growth, and embrace cultural diversity. Why is the second question. I would take this job on is probably the most important. The why is what brings out passion for the job needed for success. I want to continue being a council member. The answer is simple. I have achieved results for our citizens. I would like to share a few. Our budget and our finances have improved over the last 5 years. Our revenue is much better with the increase of TOTs. With regards to fiscal responsibility, we have been doing more with less. Cleanup is coming along in our downtown. We had Operation Clean Sweep to engage our business owners to participate and pitch with the tidiness. We've had a new litter ordinance. We purchased big belly trash cans. The city purchase of a sweeper to clean the downtown sidewalks. And most recently, the council approved the first step taking towards organizing a BID. The city staff has created a detailed infrastructure improvement plan to ensure our roads and our water sewer lines get replaced, all in part from the goals and the priorities of our council. Finally, we've gone through an elaborate vetting process to make sure that the 2 developments approved by your city council achieve the greatest good for the largest number of Millbrae residents. How? How do you do this job? Well, to continue, I need to be reelected. I've been humbled by the support of those that have already reached out to me. Our committee kickoff included so many different groups from our committee, including Millbrae business owners, past and present Millbrae leaders, my neighbors, committee members, commissioners, our school board, and a lot of other friends. The how to do this job definitely requires skill and practice, and that's why I attend workshops and continue studying leadership best practices. It's a learning curve, and after 5 years of leadership in our city, I feel like I'm a veteran. I'm looking forward tonight to hearing your questions and sharing my vision for the future of Millbrae. Thank you.
That concludes our opening statements. We'll go to the question format. We'll alternate candidates who gets first choice. We'll start with you, John Chang. And the question is, do you feel the city is spending tax dollars efficiently and transparently? And then to the incumbents, when it gets to them, can you provide tangible examples of efforts you spearheaded to save the city money? Start you.
I think the money spending. Yeah. the democratic process should be openness, fairness, and justice. So the money spending supposed to let the residents, communities to know and to decide. Okay? So I think this is the most important thing, that residents have the right to say what's the money should be used on which part prioritized. And I think the efficiency, there's still room to improve. So I think, but under the Mayor Gina Papan and Vice Mayor Wendy, their leadership, I still give them credits regarding the city's function, regarding the spending of the money.
The 90 seconds. Thank you, John. Yo-Yo Shu.
Well, thank you, Rod. And, thank you for asking this question, because on the issue of transparency and efficiency, I think Millbrae is one of the least transparent cities, and we have not been spending our money wisely. And we have not been doing more with less. We've been doing less with less. And like I mentioned in my opening statements, proposals like painting the front of the intersection of Pete's Coffee, that just shows the short-sighted nature of our city. And if we are to want residents to take us seriously, when we need to ask them for money, such as for the fire assessment, such as for Measure II, the Recreation Center bond, and other parcel taxes, such as to support education, we need to show that the city overall respects where the money goes. And we have not done that by having these type of small piecemeal projects. For example, we could have used the $250,000 that was budgeted for the downtown intersection of Hillcrest and Broadway to contribute toward our BID, some seed money to get that started, to start improving our downtown area. And I think it was very regretful that we have city council members who didn't do their due diligence to review spending. If I'm elected, I'm committed to personally reviewing the money as if it were mine and ensuring that every single dollar is spent accountably. Thank you.
Well, I can list a few things that we did to save money. I think this was actually approved before my time on council, but we installed energy-efficient HVAC systems and solar panels on the library and on many of our city buildings to save energy costs. We also merged our fire department with Central County Fire, which helped to reduce some of the redundant management positions that come with having your own fire department. We still had the same firefighters here in Millbrae, stationed here, that had been here beforehand. The same chief overseeing Millbrae. But overall, long-term cost savings by doing that merger. We also recently purchased a sidewalk sweeper for cleaning up our downtown. And while that was an investment, it also frees up staff time that it would take that we were spending cleaning up downtown. My understanding is one person can drive around the route and clean up in 2 hours, and the same amount of time it would take 6 employees to do that. So that frees up people to do more tasks and other tasks. And then we also recently purchased a new financial system, and it did take some time to implement it, but in the long run, this will save plenty of time in our billing and our finance departments for the city, and has, I believe, reduced the staff time needed to get those work done.
Thank you. And
So I would concur with what Councilmember Holliber just said, and I won't harp on it, but that goes to show the more for less, and doing more for less and cleaning up one person with one machine. Our financial system has made it the job of 2 people, 1 job. The sheriffs definitely, we get a huge bang for our buck there. The consolidation, they offer more resources than any of us could ever imagine in a small community like ours. And in saving money, I want to touch a little bit, because I've been a little bit hit on this in the middle of Hillcrest with the with the painting of it. That was all in the saving of a money because we presented a plan. We presented a plan and we offered the businesses to buy in. We offered a corner that we can enhance and get some comments on. And that painting was part of the bid. When they tear it up, they have to put it back. So it wasn't a waste. It was all part of a process, and it was all part of saving money to see if we can get a bid and not just come out and spend the money for somebody to come out and say, okay, this is seed money, we're going to go do it. There's a process by which we needed to get buy-in. We needed to get buy-in from our businesses that were going to have to put their own money into it, get buy-in from our property owners that needed to get their own money into it. And by enhancing or exciting them in a very small way, that was what the way we saved a lot of money. And hopefully the bid will go through, and we've enhanced everybody in a process by which I think was pretty fun.
Thank you. Next question will go to Yo-Yo Shu. I should mention these questions that we're presenting that came directly from the community. Yo-Yo, do you support the Millbrae General Plan being revised to provide additional commercial businesses that would provide more tax revenue than the residential properties? In addition, with the Burger King site now being developed for other purposes, how should parking or how will parking be addressed for the restaurant next door that's utilizing that parking?
Well, thank you for asking that. And it's very important that we have a general plan that reflects the needs of the city. As Millbrae becomes inevitably a busier city with the rest of the peninsula, we need to have a general plan that reflects that allows for businesses to come in specified corridors. We're not saying that we're going to open a Burger King on Helen Drive. We're talking about in our downtown corridors, making sure that we can put those in. But at the same time, you did mention the Burger King being redeveloped. I'd like to see housing as well. Housing is so important for our community, and I think ideally we'd have mixed-use developments come in. In regards to Burger King going, that was Tai Wu's parking lot, and once that's gone, you can bet that the people on Hemlock Avenue, where I live, are going to be even more strained. They're going to be calling the police 3 times a day, 7 days a week, instead of 1 time a day. Tai Wu should pay for the parking permits of every single person that lives on that street. I think that's the only way that's fair. And any future developments need to come with on-site parking. And if a developer can't commit to providing on-site parking or a viable solution, we can't have new developments at the direct detrimental impact of current residents who, quite frankly, are entitled to park in front of their house.
Thank you. Ruben?
Well, first of all, with the Burger King and the Tai Wu issue, my understanding is Tai Wu is actually getting rid of its upstairs banquet facility, and that will be converted to offices. So there should be a reduction in the amount of parking taken up on the streets in the near future. But as for the general plan, yes, I do believe the general plan is very much out of date. It is a long process to get it, to renew it, and we've been working on it. But I do think that increasing height limits along the El Camino corridor and downtown is important for facilitating development and helping to bring in both a mix of businesses and residential and affordable housing as well. We're also looking at some streetscape improvements to the downtown as part of the general plan. So, anything from little parklets, possibly moving to a parallel parking structure, parallel parking alignment, to help make the sidewalks more walkable and allow for outdoor seating. I think the challenge of that, of course, is if you go to parallel parking, that does reduce parking spaces. So if we're going to do that, we have to find a way to compensate for lost parking spaces and replace it elsewhere, but within a short walk of the downtown. So I'm fully in support of revising our general plan, and I think it is very important for bringing in more businesses to the city.
Thank you. And Annie Leva.
So I'm not really sure, I've never seen an actual plan for the Burger King. I know there's talk that obviously there's going to be development there. I just want to say that the general plan and the specific plan are nearly complete. I think part of that is going to call for regulations of plant streets, sidewalks, and even street lights so that we can have some conformity of a style that we have in the general plan. That'll be part of it as well. And there's talk of a development, we want to develop an impact fee for ordinance so that for future developments that we can get more for the city as far as fees go. So I think that's something that was a growing pain. We got some developments that we didn't have that in place, but with the general plan coming about, that's going to be, I think, really advantageous to the city. I want to say that whatever anybody builds, wherever it is in Millbrae, it just always will have to continue to have the best interest of Millbrae in mind, no matter whether it's on El Camino or in the BART property. And the philosophy of any city would be that you're only as healthy as the businesses are committed to you. So with that being said, the general plan's nearly done. There's some great improvements that we're going to make with that. And if anybody's seen the plan for Burger King, I wish they would share it, because I haven't seen it.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Chang.
Thank you. Regarding the Burger King side or the other side, any development, my major point is that it got to be bringing revenue, cannot let the resident to suffer, to pay. It got to be a revenue generating business for those new development. So I don't have an objection for those development. But once the development has any problem, my experience is that because I have been 24 years a senior programmer in the city. Whenever we run the program, have a problem, the person writing the program has to fix it. Okay. So if the developer, they develop a project and it causes the problem, security problem, traffic problem, or facility, any infrastructure problem, they have to fix it. It's not our responsibility. Suppose city give you that space, you have to take care of all the responsibility. That's my point of view.
Thank you. And next question goes to Ruben Holliber, and actually this question is initially for the incumbents. On April 10th, you voted to bypass Ann Schneider in the rotation for mayor. The action ignores city protocol in the 2016 election results. How do you think this action benefited the residents of Millbrae? And in hindsight, do you still support that action?
So thank you for asking that question. I know this is of concern to many residents in the community. I do believe that our protocols are very important and important for how our city and our council functions. However, I think it's important for the public to realize that the protocols set forth a number of different council member behaviors and expectations that go far and beyond just the mayor, vice mayor rotation. There's a lot in there. So I think because of that, I felt that based off of my observations at the time, that those, and I believe my council members were all in agreement with me, that those expectations were not being met. And because of that, I decided to vote for another candidate, another council member as vice mayor. I did that knowing that it would be an unpopular decision with many members of the community, but I feel that that was done and that was the right decision for the best interest of Millbrae. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that was just well said, and I will pass and ditto exactly what Councilmember Holliber said. It's something I hope everybody can grow from, including everybody, all 5 of us. Sometimes you have to make a tough decision, and it's not easy, but it was necessary.
Thank you. John Chang.
Yeah, I think working in the team, we have to agree the team's decision. So I think the protocol is a protocol, and whatever the city attorney allows it, and then it's okay. That's what my point of view.
Okay. And Yo-Yo Stu.
Well, thank you, Rod. This is an important question for me because it ties into the atmosphere, the culture, and the general progress of our council. You know, Ann Schneider is sitting in the back of the room today, and I remember watching that meeting where they decided to ignore protocols. And let me tell you what that translates to. That means we four know better than the public, and we don't care that the public expects Ann Schneider to be rotated into mayor. We don't like her, so we're going to act like high schoolers and leave the position vacant. And nobody wanted to take the position. And it was only weeks later when Councilman Lee decided to step up yet again to become vice mayor. And it was just totally unacceptable. You know, in other cities like San Bruno, they have a mayor election, and that's why we have a mayor election. However, we four here are candidates of equal standing and, if elected, of equal status. We cannot be belittling others. Annie Oliva, during the vice mayor discussion, she gave a very condescending and, quite frankly, unacceptable speech about why Ann Schneider should not be rotated to council. And it was disgusting. Quite frankly, it was very disgusting. If I'm elected, I propose changing the rotation protocol into an ordinance. This way, if we want to somehow overturn or sidestep it, we will need the public's hearing and approval. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question goes to Anna Leva. What is your plan for meeting the regional housing needs allocation of 660 housing units by 2023?
So the housing units that have been proposed, if in fact we put everything into place, we are not breaking ground anytime soon. But the proposals on the TOD 1 and 2 will give us approximately 663 units. And we will, by did you say 2020?
2023.
2023, I would imagine that we're going to be ahead of our RENA requirements, and very proud of that. So that was an easy question, but we're directly on course for that, and probably a little bit ahead of schedule.
Thank you. John Chang.
I think that's you. Sorry. If it is a state requirement, and we need to fulfill that and try to use our effort to reach that goal. And according to Oliva, it seems that we are ahead of it. So I think it's okay during this time.
My engineer is saying maybe move your mic a little bit down, and yours also, Ruben. We're getting some feedback. There you go. And now on to you.
Well, thank you, Rod, for asking that question. And, you know, housing is a big priority of mine. And I think we have a responsibility to our community to create these opportunities to rent a house. You know, a lot of us are very privileged to own homes. And, you know, a lot of people who are my age, who are leaving university, they have no opportunities. And the cost of living is very expensive here. So it's really, I think, our duty as a council to facilitate responsible development that brings in not only affordable but quality housing to the area. You know, something I want to point out is that through our housing, we need to protect people that are currently in the city. And one of my opponents, Annie Oliva, she says that she protects private property rights. Let me translate what that means. That means I don't support rent control. That means I don't support relocation assistance or eviction protections. And that's not to say I'm in support of a rent control, but I may be in support of something like relocation assistance, which says that as we're building all these luxury condos at the BART station, are the people who are renting from buildings going to be protected when a landlord comes and buys up their building and wants to kick all of them out? I think it's reasonable to put in a relocation assistance ordinance that provides them 3 months worth of rent so that they can relocate somewhere else. We need to protect everybody in this city as we're developing forward. Thank you.
And to you, Ruben.
Yeah, well, thank you for asking this. The RENA goals are very admirable and important, and it's a requirement that we need to make. Between the TOD 1 and 2 projects, I believe the actual number is 844 units of housing between those 2 projects. So that goes above, you know, if those are completed in time by 2023, that would go above and beyond the RENA requirements and actually position us to be ahead as those numbers keep getting increased. Of those 844 units, about 167 of them are affordable units. Many are for veterans and for other low-income residents in Millbrae, in the area that have trouble finding housing here. I'm proud that as part of the process of the public hearing process, I negotiated with the developer to actually increase the number of affordable units in the BART project from 80 to 100, which was 25% of the project total, which is nearly unheard of on the peninsula. And for those who are concerned about growth, I definitely understand that. However, the regional housing needs assessment is very important. There was an SB 35 passed by the state legislature last year, and that basically says that for cities that aren't meeting their requirement, the local control provisions are almost gone entirely, and developers can, by right, get their projects approved without the city. So I think we need to make sure, stay diligent and stay on top of that to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Thank you. And John Chang, we'll start with this, and it segues actually with respect to new development. What would your plans be to ease traffic problems that are going to occur during and after the new housing construction at the BART site?
That's major concern, sorry. Excuse me. That's what, when during this year, from March through June, the public hearing regarding the TOD 1, TOD 2, I spoke the major concern in that area are those traffic and the security, safety, school problem. Suppose those problems has to resolve, and then you have the development building. For example, I was in the South City, and at that time, they tried to build that, right now is a SAP, a more than 10-story building. But they built that Oyster Point ramp first, and then they built that high-rising building, and also the Terra Bay, those house. So, but I come here, but TOD 1, TOD 2 didn't mention about the traffic problem. It's already listed in the EIR report, but they don't care. They just want to build that and let the residents to suffer. And also, regarding the money, I think residents' most concern is the money. Okay.
And John, your 90 seconds
Right.
goes by very quickly. Yo-Yo Shu.
Another great question, Rod. And this is a big concern that I've heard from residents when I go around talking to people about the TOD project. Even people who are not from Better Millbrae, who want.
I'm not with Better Millbrae.
Fine.
Don't point at me. Okay?
All right.
This is not a place to point at people.
Okay, whatever you say. So I think traffic starts from the highway intersection. We remove the red light cameras, maybe put in a dedicated right turn lane, help traffic keep flowing from 101 onto Millbrae Avenue. We need 2 right turn lanes from Millbrae Avenue to El Camino northbound. This transit-oriented development, keyword transit-oriented, keywords that is, it's meant to alleviate traffic concerns, because if we can get people employed in office buildings that are being built there, then you're going to have people who live upstairs and work downstairs. And that would be the ideal vision that we could have. And I think that we have a big potential to reduce congestion by ensuring that people are commuting to the city rather than driving. This raises a bigger question. We need to improve BART. We need to make sure that whatever projects we're putting in, including TOD 1 and 2, as part of the design review process, if we can get one of those planning commission meetings not canceled, is to ensure that there's maximum accessibility, that it's easy to access BART, that BART is clean, free of drug needles, that BART is a little bit cheaper. I think we have so much potential there, and Millbrae should be a leader. We should really be a leader when it comes to solving traffic problems and supporting public transit.
Ruben.
Yeah, well, as part of our mitigation provisions for the TOD projects, we do have in the environmental impact report adding a second right turn lane off of Millbrae Avenue onto El Camino, because that already, as it is, backs up all the way to 101. And part of calculating our development impact fees, that was actually one of the projects that was used to calculate the fees. So it should be done either all or mostly at the developer's expense and not at the city's. The MSASP also includes extending the Bay Trail for safe bicycle and pedestrian access across 101 all the way to the BART station. And I'd also like to make sure that South Station Road, which goes parallel to the tracks underneath the overpass, stays open as well as an extra outlet for BART and may eventually become a two-way road. We can't do it at the moment because of some property that's south of the overpass, but if that eventually gets developed, then that could become a two-lane road. I disagree with my challenger on the red light cameras. I think they are important in that intersection. It is our busiest intersection in Millbrae and will only get busier with the TOD projects being built. So I think they are important in that area for safety.
Thank you, Ruben. Annie?
So not only is Millbrae going to have more developments and more traffic, but across the county we have issues. And I've had the privilege of being on commute.org, a county transit committee that is doing all kinds of beautiful ideas that would encompass shuttles of all kinds to go up and not only just down El Camino, but also east and west. Unfortunately, we don't have the public that buys into it yet. And I think that with the promotion of public transportation and their advertisement, that's the whole goal of even having a transit-oriented development. And it just needs to be promoted. We need to make some different routes for the buses because it's not just down El Camino anymore. And the communities need to be sustainable. They need to have their grocery stores and their cleaners and whatever they need to do to get through the week as a family living in that area so we don't have the cars all over the place. Again, those two right turns were part of the EIR that will come from Millbrae Avenue onto El Camino, and I think that initially will be the best thing that will not have such a huge impact with the development in Millbrae. But traffic is an issue. It's a county-wide issue. We are a transportation intermodal hub, and we need to take a lot of responsibility on how to get people there.
Thank you. This question goes to Yo-Yo Shu first. How concerned are you about Millbrae's pension liability costs? And if so, do you have a plan to address a potential crisis?
Thank you, Rod. The pensions in Millbrae are a huge concern of mine. And recently, the San Mateo County Grand Jury released quite a sobering report. The report was titled "Soaring City Pension Costs: Time for Hard Choices." And we need leaders who are going to make hard choices. Essentially, the problem in Millbrae is that we have a lot of unfunded liabilities. And unfunded liabilities are the difference between the benefits that we've already promised to our employees as part of their benefit packages, that's actuarially estimated, and the money that we've actually set aside, which in Millbrae, unfortunately, I think it's below 70%. And that puts a lot of strain each year on our budget to have to set aside this money. We are making a lot of amortization payments to CalPERS, and CalPERS is taking our money and interest, and we need to find ways to pay off our liability a little bit earlier. Otherwise, we are going to continue not to have a great, not to have an underfunded sheriff's department. The grand jury suggested that we could negotiate with bargaining units to increase the share that employees actually pay into their pensions. We can increase revenue from taxes, which I personally look forward to doing with the downtown revitalization. And we can also use other resources to pay down the unfunded liabilities early to reduce those amortization costs. So, yeah.
Ruben.
Yeah, well, thank you for asking that question. That is a concern for Millbrae and as well as many other cities throughout the peninsula, as the grand jury report showed. Our costs are expected to balloon over the next decade, and that is going to be a challenge for us. There were some changes that were made to the CalPERS funding formula called PEPRA a few years ago, And that should help in the long run, as newer employees are not receiving the same benefit as our legacy retirees have been receiving. However, many of our retirees, we hope that they are around for a long time here in the community. And I think part of the bargain for being a public agency and having people provide a public service is that you have to treat them with dignity in retirement. And providing a decent retirement is an important way to recruit talented staff and also to treat our people well. Next month, I know our finance department will be presenting some recommendations based off the grand jury report going forward. One that I think I would like to consider is pension obligation bonds, where the city borrows ahead of time and makes payments to pay off the debt service payments, pay off the CalPERS payments, and the debt service payments made on the bonds typically are less than the interest payments paid to CalPERS. So that is something that has saved a lot of cities in the past. But we have to do it carefully, and I think, as our other candidate mentioned, I think it's going to take a number of different funding sources to get it done.
Thank you. Annie?
So going forth on this, we inherited it, it was promised, and we have to pay it. And instead of crying about it, I have to say that I think that the city of Millbrae's done a lot of things about doing something about it. The reformulation of the PREPA from the county, that's great. That'll delay things. But what Councilmember Holliber just said, that low interest bond seems to be at least less of a hit in the face. I think the consolidations of the police department or the sheriff department and the central fire, that's all going to help with the top pay salaries, and that will help reduce while still having quality workers that we can hire, it'll reduce the top salaries and reduce the debt that we incur. So I think everything's been said on that, and the pensions are not fun to talk about.
No. Thank you, Annie. And John, your views on the pension liability?
Is it open? Yes. I'm a City County of San Francisco employee, and I'm union with Local 21. So if a city want to reduce the employee salary or pension fund, I think city has to negotiate with the union. Okay, if union doesn't have problem, I don't have problem. That's my point. Okay, and by the way, I think just don't think about somebody's pocket and their money. Okay, we have to think how our pocket doesn't have money. Suppose we should have a capability. We should doing some cash generation the business here. Okay, we don't have to think about somebody else's money. Okay, think about residence tax. Think about employees' salary, pension. I don't think that's the right way. Okay, we have to think about why Millbrae such a long time cannot entice those big names into our city. Okay, next city, San Bruno, they have a Google, YouTube, they have a Toyota. Okay, those international big names. Next city, Burlingame, they can attract Facebook, Oculus in Burlingame Point. Why Millbrae such a long time? Nothing here.
90 seconds. Thank you. And this might be our last question. We'll go to Ruben. In speaking about new businesses, what would be your position? Apparently, several large commercial landowners want to build along El Camino Real. And what type of development would you like to see come in?
Yeah, well, I think I am in support of more development along the El Camino Real. I think that is part of the process that's going to come out of the general plan, because right now, many parts of the El Camino cannot the height limits, I think, are about 40 feet. And to get, viable development, you need to get to at least about 60, 65 feet to get, a 5 to 6 story building. So we are going to be working on that. I think having mixed-use projects, obviously there is a housing shortage in the Bay Area, so I think housing is going to be part of it, but commercial development is important as well. I'd like to see some office buildings come in. Millbrae has had, I think one of the reasons why we haven't gotten any type of, big-name tech companies is because we don't have the space for it. We have almost no office space in Millbrae, and certainly no, high-end office space that these businesses really desire. I think working with the general plan and working with developers to make sure that we can help facilitate development in these spaces will be important. One thing that we did with the stationary specific plan is we required any new development to include a fiscal impact study to make sure that the projects did pay for themselves over the long run and did provide surplus revenues to the city. So I would like to see that requirement in the general plan as well along the El Camino, because revenue to the city is always going to be an important factor for whether or not to approve or deny or modify a project.
Thank you, Ruben. Annie?
So ideally, what I would like to see on El Camino and the development of that is a hotel. That would be the greatest source of income to generate some revenues for the city. At the same time, while it is the time for development, we have to maintain our community feel, too. We are a small community, and I think that's really important. With that being said, with everybody's interests in mind, a hotel near an airport and BART and fine restaurants in our city, I think that would be, if I had the opportunity to choose what the question was, what would you go after, it would be first and foremost a hotel.
Thank you. And John Chang, development?
Regarding the business development, I know Millbrae is small, right? Still, as I said, I work as a mentor, as a mentor coach to teach those students math. And this year, some of the kids went to MIT mechanics and Berkeley, UCLA, you name it, okay? Because their potential will excavate, dig out. I think Millbrae has a lot of potential people, okay? They have a big organization experiences, but we need to get those people's experience and capability to develop our city. That's most important. For example, you said there's no place. Right now, OSH is going to our business. That area, we can still use a lot of place, empty, okay? We still can use business development plan. I think when I went to Vancouver, they have a night market, okay? Tons of people went there, and business during that night. And the hotel around them still full of people. So I think we still can use that strategy, okay? Increase our business here. For example, in San Francisco.
I'm sorry, John.
All right.
90 seconds. Goes quickly. Thank you, though. And Yo-Yo Shu.
Thank you, Rod. So development and bringing in new businesses. Like Ruben said, we don't have the space. And something like OSH was probably going to be developed, but that's a good while from now. We have a great proposal. We have TOD1, TOD2, and I appreciate the leadership of Councilmember Oliva here and Councilmember Holliber. Ruben has been very, very diligent with making sure that we mitigate negative impacts to the community. And you have a very experienced person who has had a lifetime of experience in real estate. So I trust that the TOD proposal is fine. And if we'd have certain community grassroots organizations stop hindering that, maybe we could start building the places to get Toyota, to get Apple, to get YouTube. But unfortunately, we don't have that at the moment. Something I've learned, Rod, from starting 3 months ago on my campaign, is that we have to be cautiously optimistic and realistically optimistic. You know, there are things that we want, but at the end of the day, a lot of it comes down to how are we going to pay for that? Where is it going to go? And are the people going to be in support of it? My vision for bringing in business is our downtown. You know, before the TOD comes in, downtown. You know, let's not forget about that. I've supported the BID. I've said I think the BID came 5 years too late. I'm really glad that we're now forming it because that's going to get everyone to buy in. And a BID was adopted by cities like Burlingame, San Mateo, Redwood City. And I think the results there speak for themselves. So I really like to clean up our downtown and re-attract investment into our city, not just more restaurants. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm told we have time for another question. It goes to Annie Oliva. What are your views on Airbnb rentals in Millbrae, and would you support adopting a policy similar to San Francisco?
I'm not 100% familiar with what's going on in San Francisco, but what we did is adopt something by regulating what Airbnbs are doing in Millbrae. And residents that are running an Airbnb out of their home, there's a registration. And we did this for two reasons. One, to regulate, knowing who's in and out of our city and who's doing what they're doing in our city, and also because of safety reasons. There was obviously, I think everybody in this room probably read about or heard about a horrific party that was out of control in a beautiful, quiet neighborhood in our town, in our city. And it disrupted and it frightened many of our residents. And with that terrible situation, we weren't able to solve the situation, but yet we made a step in the right direction. And I think as a council, we came together to say, hey, listen, what can we do to register people and make it a little bit more safe, yet while being proactive and engaging in the new way of owning a home and being able to rent out your house. We put it together, and I thought that it was a nice step in the right direction, which council came together and did.
Thank you. John Chang, Airbnb?
Yeah, the Airbnb, I think council did a good job. They heard the residents complained, and then they set up the ordinance rules and have the Airbnb to follow what our city's guidance. I think right now is okay. Yeah,
Thank you.
I agree with it.
Sure.
Thank you, Rod. Well, your question was, do I support the new Airbnb ordinance as well as potentially adopting what San Francisco has done? And what was done in San Francisco was that they adopted a policy of one host, one listing. So that means that someone, let's say an investor of some sort, can't buy up a bunch of homes in our communities, divide the living room into 6 bedrooms, put in 10 bunk beds, and make the whole thing more or less a boarding house. And I would actually support that. I personally don't really support unhosted rentals unless it's on a temporary basis, which our ordinance has actually provided for. So I actually commend the city council for doing that. But another thing, I just want to be mindful, because renting a spare bedroom to your friend or someone along those lines is now called Airbnb. And having traveled to 25 countries just this year, I know that the impact of Airbnb is more positive than negative. And we have so much opportunity to welcome people into our city, people who are not going to park in your driveway because they're coming on an airplane, people who will spend money here, who will bring their friends back in the future when they come visit the Bay Area and realize Millbrae is a very great place. So that's how it comes to making sure that regulation isn't too burdensome. We're here to ensure safety. The whole issue with the incident on the Hill where the shooting happened. There was a shootout, and I don't think anyone died from that. But it was a gentleman who had rented his house out, and unfortunately, it was not rented by tourists, but by some locals who are looking to throw a house party. So let's try to prevent that kind of renter. And also, I think the city needs time to see whether or not the ordinance has worked, and I hope the city council will continue to make changes as needed.
And Ruben.
Yeah, so again, I don't know all the details of the San Francisco ordinance, but I feel that the ordinance that we approved recently at the council is a positive step for our city, and it was approved in a very timely fashion only a couple months after that incident occurred on Lombardi Lane. The ordinance does require that the property be the primary residence of the owner, so that it's not, a ghost house that's owned by somebody overseas or in another city. And the unhosted nights are limited to only 100 per year. So, and there has to be somebody on call in case an incident does occur. Somebody has to answer the phone within half an hour or be on site within an hour, either the owner or an agent of the owner. There also are limitations on occupancy to prevent the scenario with bunk beds. We understood that there was a house that was being rented out with about 60 bunk beds in a 10-bedroom duplex. So that is prohibited under this ordinance. There's also our notifications to neighbors in case there is a new application for an Airbnb short-term rental within 500 feet of you. And there is a revenue component from this as well, from hotel tax. But we are going to keep an eye on this issue in case there are other incidences that arrive that do not quite fit within the scope of the ordinance. It is a working document, and we can make revisions if needed.
Thank you. And that concludes our question and answer portion. We will now go to the closing statements. And as said before, we'll go in the reverse order. So Annie Oliva, you start. 2 minutes, please.
Okay. I can't help but think of this moment without thinking about my father. He was my mentor for many things. We shared a close father-daughter relationship. We shared a close working relationship, and of course, our mutual drive and honor to serve as public servants. He left me too soon, and I can only think that the stress of the second worst recession in the history of our country played a part in his passing. Unlike today, good times are happening, and especially in Millbrae. 10 years ago, those that were here long enough to remember, life was not very easy. Households were struggling to make a living while raising a family. And for many municipalities, super hard times. Few cities even claimed bankruptcy. Millbrae made it. What it took was leadership and experience. What it will take to remain strong will again be leadership and experience. Thankfully, in leadership, both in good times and bad, I remember 3 powerful lessons from my father that guided me. Number 1, respect diversity. Of course, this means ethnicity, religion, and so forth. But for him, it also meant diverse attitudes and opinions. My dad respected diversity because he knew it led to better decisions for all involved. I've applied this lesson in my work and in my counsel. Number 2, make a tough call. Easier said than done, but necessary. And number 3, be a team player, both on and off the dais. Everyone here wants to take Millbrae in the right direction. I believe, as I continue to practice what my dad preached through his words and his deed, I can help Millbrae in this right direction. I want to thank MCTV. We can always count on you to participate in important events for our community, and I respectfully ask the community to support me in your vote. And I thank you all for taking the time tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Halber.
Thank you again to MCTV for hosting this forum. Voters will be choosing 2 council members this fall. I applaud my fellow candidates for running spirited and issue-focused campaigns. I love Millbrae. This is my hometown. It has been a special place for me and my family. I would like it to stay that way for many generations to come. I envision Millbrae as a vibrant economic center with a small-town feel and quality of life. I believe that I have demonstrated through my record of leadership that I am effective at carefully managing our growth while listening to community concerns. I have the experience needed to help guide Millbrae through these challenging times. I have the knowledge and steady-handedness to keep a watchful eye on our finances, provide vital public safety services, and restore our recreation center. I'm running for a second term because I believe Millbrae's best days are ahead of us. There are many projects underway, and stability in leadership is necessary to achieve long-term goals. I've enjoyed going door to door and meeting voters, listening to resident ideas and concerns. I believe a collaborative approach makes every decision better, and I welcome the community's involvement in our council and commission meetings. I am proud to have been endorsed by Congresswoman Jackie Spear, 9 former Millbrae mayors, and a diverse coalition comprising of scores of elected officials, education, business, labor, and civic leaders. Serving as your council member has been a tremendous honor for me. I respectfully ask for one of your 2 votes for another 4 years. For more information, please visit my website, rubenholliber.com. Thank you, and have a good night.
Thank you, Ruben. Yo-Shu?
Yes. Well, first, let me just say that, Annie, that was a really moving story. And I'm very lucky today to have my father sitting in the front row. And I'm sure your father is very proud of you. I would just like to express my heartfelt gratitude to those who have supported me throughout this campaign. I have been so privileged to receive your trust and to be invited into your homes. In the 3 months that I've spent knocking on doors, talking with hundreds and hundreds of residents, I have not only learned more than I ever could have imagined, but I also realized that this is where I want to be, and this is what I want to be doing. I want to help people by championing the voice of everyday residents, great residents who just want what's best for their city. I want to reassure the family on Laurel Avenue whose family van was broken into and their children's backpacks stolen. I want to fight for downtown small business owners whose bottom line is being hurt by the lack of parking and unclean environment. I want to advocate for the families at the top of Hillcrest Boulevard whose streetlights have been out for almost 3 months. I want to be the voice for the 90-year-old resident on Adina Avenue who told me that she had to cut back her spending for the month after she accidentally rolled a right turn and got a $500 red light citation. I have not made promises that I cannot keep. I intend to be accountable to all Millbrae residents, not just around Election Day. I want to work with everyone to make Millbrae a more wholesome and welcoming place to live, to raise a family, to own a small business, to find your American dream, and to one day retire. I hope in the coming days to earn your respect, your trust, and your vote. And I hope that if anyone has any remaining questions, they'll come see me outside. Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you, Yo-Yo. John Chang.
2,400 years ago, in Chinese second sage Mencius, he said that Democrat is the people first. Okay? And according to his saying, in this today's world is Millbrae resident first, then council, then the officers. So I came in because according to the mentor's point of view, 2.88 millions in TOD2, the developers get tax return, and the city didn't get anything, and without any interest. And this is kind of disgrace of a city council, bargaining skill. And we want to get more, but we suffer more instead. We cannot just spend taxpayer money, spend and spend. We need to find out the revenue generating business for our city. That's a major point I come out here. In June, more than 1,300 residents have signed, and before June 21st, and humbly request to have referendum petition, and was rejected. because of a past deadline. So San Mateo City Council, they can have the city attorney to work with the residents to have a proposition for the height limits. But why Millbrae cannot? Millbrae City Council blocked residents' request. Today, the same people are more and are going to see if Millbrae can have a true democracy through election. Millbrae can be ruled by people, residents, or we still need to suffer. We need the most benefit for Millbrae. Millbrae resident first. Millbrae supposed to get the most benefit. God bless everybody here, and God bless Millbrae. I humbly request your vote, okay, by write in Chang on your ballot. Thank you, everybody.
And that concludes our program tonight. And another round of applause for the candidates. Let's just have it. Please watch our station for the replay, and most importantly, remember to vote. Thank you, and good night. I'm going to go home and sleep.